Experience today's Umbria.
Thank you all for being here. Our two panelists are just outside. They have sent me an emergency text saying, you know, so I'll just do some juggling tricks while they arrive. But thank you. All right, I think we're. Thank you. I think we're ready to start. Everyone feeling settled? All right, all right. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate people coming at 3 o'clock on a Saturday of a 4-day conference. So you guys must really care about this stuff. Thank you very much. The idea for this panel began as a provocation, which was, are all the increasingly complicated impact models of not-profit journalism simply a way to explain away a fear of a lack of effective scale? So if you ask an ordinary reader of the New York Times or the BBC, what is the mission, vision, and theory of change of the New York Times or the BBC, the answer would probably be God knows and who cares, right? So, but when I moved to not-for-profit journalism from working in sort of, I guess, what do we call it, for-profit? I don't know if anyone's making one, but let's call it corporate media for basically 18 years, I was surprised by the amount of time that not-for-profit journalism spends thinking about this stuff and refining this stuff and sharing this stuff. But I think there's also a bit of nuance here, because for many years, my former employers at HuffPost and BuzzFeed News had way, way, way more readers than the New York Times. But I think we can probably agree that publications like the New York Times shape US politics more insistently than, say, HuffPost or BuzzFeed News. So there's clearly a nuance here. And that's the nuance that we've assembled this brilliant panel to discuss. We have, moving from left to right, we have Dr. Julie Posetti. She's the chair of the Center of Journalism and Democracy at City St. George's, University of London. She serves on the board of the International Fund for Public Interest Media, and she's the director of the Information Integrity Initiative. We have Natalia Viana, who is the co-founder and executive director of Agencia Publica, Latin America's largest not-for-profit newsroom. And we have Sergio Spagnuolo. Did I get that right? Spaiolo, sorry. Sergio Spaiolo, who is the director and co-founder of Nucleo Journalism, an award-winning newsroom that looks at how tech and AI shape society. So I want to start this by just questioning what are now standard assumptions, which is it's now accepted wisdom that apparently no one reads stories, stories don't cut through like they used to. But I know that this is, again, the true interest lies in the nuance. So Julie, I wondered if you could start by giving us a broad overview of how you see kind of audience behavior, not just in the West, but elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And then I think if Natalia and Sergio, you could just give us kind of granular, break it down to the level of your newsrooms around what audience looks like for the two of you, that would be amazing. Everyone, let's try and keep answers short so I can ask you lots of questions. Start with you.
Okay. Former broadcaster and now kind of wear an academic floppy hat, so keeping things short can sometimes be a challenge. So you can shut me up if I'm going on too much. So, I mean, first of all, everybody I speak to, and that includes, you mentioned the Information Integrity Initiative, which I run. That's embedded in Maria Ressa's universe. It's a project of the Nerve, which is her digital forensics lab, not to be confused with Carol Cadwallader's recently launched startup, The Nerve. We collaborate, nevertheless, and are friends, just in case anyone's concerned about that. But everyone, wherever I observe and interact, including in the Philippines, we work closely with the Daily Maverick in South Africa. We have partnered with, Coda Story, which is a global-facing, not a startup anymore, it's 10 years old, global-facing news organization that tries to do a kind of journalism of prescience focused on, tracking disinformation narratives, assessing narrative capture and so on, right through to large news organizations like the AP in the US and the ABC in Australia, which are organizations we're working with in a different context. The story is the same, that distribution has, and I quote everyone, fallen off a cliff as a result of the mainstreaming of contemporary AI technologies. And that is to reflect the ways in which, platform capture 2.0, I refer to it, where in this version of it, the information is captured and scraped and sucked up, and I don't need to explain that to you. Provenance is not, and the ability to follow prompt-based responses to credible, reliable sources, including news organizations. Referrals no longer work. Social no longer works. I mean, this is all part of Platform Capture 1.0. So for me, I am at a point, and this is after 15, 20 years of observation of the digital transformation of media, rather than some peer-reviewed study that I'm about to share you data from. But my conclusion, which has been settling for a few years now, is that we are likely in a scenario where the very big brands, including the public broadcasters, which have a different kind of ecosystem in which they have to try and operate, but the very big global brands, and if we take the obvious example of the New York Times as an outlet that is likely to survive because of its harnessing over time of a very successful business model approach, which is subscriber-based and quality-based, notwithstanding all of the very relevant and fair debates about its coverage of certain issues. And then we have what I would call genuine impact-oriented smaller news organisations that are not operating to try and replicate scale. And those news organisations, I mentioned, some that could be considered to be in that realm. There are very many others. Exist to try to effect change.
We're going to come to that.
Sure.
But right, so they try to to kind of hold on to this thought, because we're literally going to come back to it. What you're kind of giving us is this sense of there is the big scale broadcaster, and there is the impact kind of publication in a sense.
Yeah, so there's, not just broadcasters, but large legacy newspaper type born, news organizations that have a stable and successful business model. They have ridden the craters and whatever metaphor you want to apply. And then there is a desperate need for, and I think the possibility for, developing a model that helps to make them sustainable, the news organisations that do the work of focusing on specific issues, serving specific communities, that are designed to present nuance and context in a world where news being mass-produced is no longer a viable model for journalism.
Okay. Natalia, when I come to you, you run Latin America's largest not-for-profit newsroom. I think it would be really interesting, certainly for me and for this audience, to be like, okay, what does that look like in terms of scale? Like, what does Latin America's largest not-for-profit newsroom look like? Like, how big are you? How many people are you? How many people do you reach? How do you think about this?
Agencia Publica. Thank you, Sergio. Agencia Publica just turned 15 years old. We have 42 people or 43 changes. I never know how many are, but we're more. And that being big is the reality of journalism. It means that it's big not only if you compare it to other nonprofits, but if you compare to local newsrooms, like to newspapers. We are like one of the newsrooms, like we're bigger than like 30% or 40% of the newspapers in Brazil, the local ones, they're not the big ones. But even the big ones, they have like 200 people. It's appalling. But that's what it looks like. And I wanted to say that I think we went on a completely opposite journey because we are an investigative journalism agency. For a decade, we never thought about our audience. We put all of our efforts into having big stories that were too long. Now we recognize. And like just doing a very good detailed reporting on that one topic. So we started publishing once per month, and then it was like once per week. And we were like, they were super crafty, they were super deep. They were impactful because we were the only ones. And then suddenly many other people started doing the same. So in Brazil, then we founded an association. There's 150 members. There's lots of people doing investigative journalism. But one of the things that we noticed 5 years ago is that we had an audience. Like, oh, we actually have an audience. We were an agency, which means that we get republished by other media, and we put so much effort into that. We actually have like a whole operation of people working on getting republished, and we never had anybody looking at who are the people who are coming to our website. First of all, aren't they super depressed? This is a serious concern. Like, who comes to our website? It's only hard to hitting stars. There's nothing saying, hey, there's a bright side of life. But we started doing that, and we started doing this reflection, and actually caring, like looking at them, trying to understand why they're coming, trying to have ways to communicate with them that doesn't depend on social media. And I think this is such a transformative experience, and it has led me to understand that there is a space for journalism in even small newsrooms in this new world. And there's 4 things that journalism will still do. 2 of them we share with other types of content producers. Analysis of news and affairs is something that we no longer are the only ones who do. There's many, experts that do it. Creating community. Journalism, especially small newsrooms, are very good at creating community, very good. Like for one influencer to create a community, it's harder than for us. And this is a value. The fact that we are still here after 50 years, Chequeados is here after 15 years, and we created communities. We're not that experts, but we have to get better. And then the other 2, only journalism can do. Investigating power, nobody else does this. Public ministry does this, but they are public offices. And the other one is, we are seriously needed, and we will still be, in terms where service information, where there is an information crisis. And these are periodical. During the epidemic, it was pretty clear. During elections, they're all informational crisis. Huge disaster, informational crisis. And more, these moments are going to be a fight between actors that are going to spread this information to profit and people who are trying to actually say what's going on. And this happens in wars as well, and much more. And for these moments, having a coalition, which is something that I learned from Laura Sommer here, is extremely effective. So this is the good news. There's a role for us.
I guess we can all go home now. Sergio, how do you, tell us about your newsroom, tell us about your audience, and tell us how you think through this space right now.
For those who don't know, probably you don't know, Núcleo is a small news organization in Brazil. We are 14 people, and we are focused on investigating big tech and its impact on society, right? And the reason I believe a lot of people don't know, like, they know Agencia Publica. A lot of people know Agencia Publica. They're big, they're impactful, they do a lot of great stuff. They have a lot of people, they go to a lot of conferences and stuff. Got some budget for that too.
Ooh.
And being for panels.
And we don't have any of that, but what we do, we are a small organization that thinks of kind of small journalism, right, in a good way, right? We don't want to, when we started, we wanted to, like to have 1 million page views a day or do all this stuff that makes all other news organizations very successful. And we saw that we could not do that with our current budget. And nor it was our mission to get the most readers, the most followers, the most everything. Our reader is to cater and to serve the audience that we have, which are people who care about the impact of technology. So we have a lot of people from government, from law, from legal services, from NGOs, from the press too, from civil society overall. So those are people who use the information we publish to actually take action on this. So we are very impactful in what we do, because we only choose the stories that we think are worth telling. And for instance, this year we are 4 months in, almost 5. We had like 8 direct impacts on policy that we know of, like investigations that are open because of our stories, some bills in the Congress that were made because of some stories that we published or that were proposed because of the stories that we published. And Publica has that, all organizations have that, but they have more reach. So we decided, let's just stay with the maybe 20, 30,000 people that actually follow us and have impact with them, and then we outreach more. Instead of, let's go get the whole audience, the most we can get, and, like we don't have any ads, we don't have anything like that. So that's the outline of what we do.
I mean, I want to dig into this a bit, because I sort of believe or have been thinking for a while that a theory of audience is also a theory of actually how democracy works, right? So there's one theory which is millions of people consume your content, you influence millions of people, and it shapes how they participate in democracy. The other is that the right 17 people read your story. One is a lawyer who goes to court. The other is a political operative who gets it raised in parliament. And I kind of feel like the kind of optimized for impact model in some ways is what annoys a lot of people about a certain kind of journalism, where they're like, journalism and power no longer need the audience at all. So it's like, we're going to influence you directly. You're going to read us directly. Everything will get done and the world will be better. So how would you tell me that I'm wrong? Or how would you push back against that?
Can I start?
Yes.
So, I mean, investigative journalism's roots, anyone who has studied the history of journalism, and most people who are investigative reporters understand that the roots of this tradition were in a specific desire to effect social change, social justice, public interest outcomes. And I don't think there is a disconnect between the audience and public interest. I think one of the things that could assist the gap that you're highlighting between niche news organizations or targeted news initiatives focused on specific issues or serving specific communities. Take the Haitian Times in the US, serving a diaspora community that is extraordinarily challenged and under attack by the Trump administration, serving a very important purpose, but building what I refer to as stronger, deeper, narrower ties with the community. So it is about building communities, but it is also about reporting that does the kind of work that is often investigative, that can be campaigning, that serves that community in a way that is designed, whether it's through extracting insights and ensuring that those insights, through public communication, through events, through projects that collaborate with civil society organisations, that allow for those insights to be not just actionable, but acted upon to affect the change. So I can understand a perspective that some of these initiatives that have been largely grant funded are elitist and not about audiences. But I wrote a report when I was at the Reuters Institute for the Study of Journalism, leading something called the Journalism Innovation Project, which was unfortunately funded by the company now known as Meta. It's a whole other panel. I wrote a report which was called something like Deeper, Narrower and Stronger. And it was all about the need for international news organisations to forge closer ties with communities and to do some of the things that we are now routinely seeing happening in smaller or niche news organisations, but also the larger ones, which is the kind of public event style or initiative, something like the Zeg Storytelling Festival, which has emerged from Coda Story as a way of building community across different boundaries, bringing different sectors of society together, transforming the stories into theatrical events. That kind of, that sort of very physical, visceral experience of impact that I think sometimes is overlooked.
Go ahead.
Something that, thank you for saying that, Julie, because something that I usually push back is, again, the notion of scale, that we need to have scale, all scale. Like, not everybody drinks beer, right? Not everybody flies on a plane, not everybody travels all year, but you still got those services and those products for people who do that, for those people who care about traveling or getting drunk or whatever. But and the same goes for journalists too, like stuff we write and ProPublica writes and many other news organization writes affect people who don't read our content directly, right? So people say journalism is elitist, yeah, and sometimes it can be, of course. I'm not gonna say it isn't, but it's also meant to kind of bring change in some way or help bring light into some topic and explain the word to people. And this has some ramifications outside the actual direct audience that we have.
Yeah, we've been thinking a lot about this, as I was telling you, as we started knowing that we have an audience. So what you described, and you said elite interventions, we call our professional audience. It's an audience, they not necessarily a super elitist, but they use our content in their work. They're NGO workers. They're journalists. There's so many journalists who just read those stories and just copy it. And also yours, I know this. We're informing people who actually do stuff professionally. But we were also like, I don't think this is, it's not conflicting with other people that come to our website just because, they want to, they want to read what we're writing. And then we started talking to them, we started asking them, why do you come to our website? And they're like, because we believe in you. We believe in what you publish. We know that if ProPublica published it, it's true. And then we asked, okay, so what do you want from us? And they said, we want to know what you think about what's going on. Because we go to your website. It's utterly depressing. It's a story that has no connection with what is being told, what's being talked about. And you should be there, give us, what do you think about this? And they're like, oh my God, we don't know how to do it. But we started, really trying to meet their needs a little bit more. We have shifted quite a lot. Maria Marta is here to prove. We had a lot of conflict in the newsroom because of that. People were saying, no, I want to write very long articles, whatever. But also, for me, it is very interesting because of the funding model, and I tell this to my co-directors, they don't like it. I do think that the grant funding model makes us a bit lazy. Because what you need is the funder to trust you. And you don't really need to think about, how can I make this piece be more read? How can I make this piece be better for the audience? Who is my audience? And then there's the other thing, which is you're an NGO, you're progressive, and then you're like, who is your audience? Yeah, my audience is an elite. They're middle class. They're like me. I don't read everything that we publish. It's a lot. And like, if it was like better crafted, better presented, I would read it every day. So it challenges us, and I'm super happy with that. But the main thing is that we have decided to invest on things that are a success. I want to make success, and I think we should do this. And one of the things that we've done, and that is super working, we are investing in podcasts, and all the podcasts are like very interesting, crafty stories that relate to a subject. So I wrote a podcast about the witch hunt in Salem in 1692. There was a huge hit in Brazil. And I used that story to talk about feminicides and how, the witch hunt was a huge feminicide. I'm going to witch conferences, like it's totally like breaking the bubble. And we're launching more like this. And I'm super happy with this. I think we have to be challenged to look at the audiences.
That's really helpful from all of you, and I realized I forgot to introduce myself at the beginning of the panel. That's what allyship looks like, guys. My name's Aman Sethi. I'm the editor-in-chief of openDemocracy. And when I came to openDemocracy from BuzzFeed and HuffPost, where, scale is a bit like beer, and, beer is good most of the time. But what I found really interesting about openDemocracy, and it made me think about what I call effective scale, is that we have a newsletter of 120,000. Our readers give us $500,000 a year. That is bigger than any other funder gives us. And so I was like, actually, this is like incredible signal, right? And I don't think we're in a position tomorrow to start turning down grants. We are not, so if you would like to give any. But it's been very interesting, Natalia, as you spoke about, to say, what is the signal and what is the noise? And I think being like, we realize that our readers read analysis a lot more than we thought. We realized, as Natalia was saying, that what grant funding was making us do was making our products look like a series of projects. And nobody wakes up in the morning saying, today I want to read a story about climate change, and then tomorrow I want to read a story about gender and sexuality in Africa, and then day after I will read blah. People just wake up saying, I want some stories. And so what we realized was that we can use our analysis and opinion work to be relevant every day while continuing to do like the long-term stuff. And what we found was that people read analysis a lot, but people pay for investigations. Yeah. They're going to read, the investigations are going to be read very little compared to a well-crafted position on the Iran war. But no one's going to give you money for that well-crafted position on the Iran war, but they will give you money for your investigation. So that's been like a really interesting sort of set of learnings around this. So I wanted to now kind of we have about 20 minutes left, so maybe if we can all go for a tight 10 minutes, and then we can leave 10 minutes for the audience. I want to kind of think about one of the questions people keep coming, like we've been thinking about, people often ask us is, are we all talking to only our side of the aisle? Should we reach across the aisle? I was at a very interesting panel where somebody from MLK 50 was talking about, which is an incredible newsroom, and you should all check it out, about the fact that you can't take everyone along, but you want to try and take as many people along. And Julie, I'm going to start with you on this one because, you're the professor. But there's a bunch of, like we saw with the Rene Good shooting video, the tragic video, and there's research out there. Again, how seriously should we take taking a lot of the research that's out there that suggests two people with opposing political beliefs can look at the same source and the same information from the same source and draw totally opposing conclusions and only get further polarized, right? So how should we as small newsrooms be thinking about this? Should you just be like, not our circus, not our monkeys, that's not our problem? Should we be like, we can actually do something about this? And I'm going to tell everyone, keep this short because, everyone's dying to ask questions, I can tell.
I mean, some of the research I don't agree with because, for example, when it comes to platform capture and the ways in which both audiences or communities on platforms are strategically polarized for profit, algorithms driving groups based on hate closer and closer together, broadening those groups, yes, but they have a specific remit, whether it's racism, misogyny, religious bigotry. You know, these are drivers that have become profit drivers also for the companies, the big tech companies. And so the big tech companies have a massive responsibility for polarization. And no news organization, no matter how ethical or how creative, can ever hope to speak across the aisle in the ways in which we know that to sustain democracy, conversations must be based and access to a shared truth must be possible. And in the context of viral disinformation, narrative capture, the proliferation of AI slop, sorry to depress you all, but it's getting harder and harder to address the problem of polarization between the collapse of distribution for quality independent journalism and the algorithmic drivers that support polarization. So that's one point. The other point I would make is that I think it is still possible to think about community-based journalism that is not, you know, that is able to speak to communities across ideology on issues that specifically and directly affect them. Shared experiences. We saw this in the pandemic, right? Everybody was initially, until the COVID vax deniers really kicked into the conspiracy networks and that caused issues. But we saw a shared reality. We saw shared trauma. We see these kinds of responses to investigative reporting, say, on the Giselle Pellico case or the Epstein files, where there are shared experiences being tapped into, regardless of political ideology. These are human experiences that are being tapped into, that whether it's niche journalism focused on those things, or in the case of community-based journalism serving a specific small geographic community, where access to services is something that is a shared reality. I live in the rarefied city of Oxford in the UK, where getting a GP appointment or driving on a road without potholes is nigh on impossible, believe it or not. Massive first world problems, but this is what drives growing communities of newsletters in that city. So, I think it is possible, but we have to be very conscious about it, and we have to lean in to where people are experiencing pain and speak to that pain.
I want to get both of you in on this and I think it would be interesting if you could speak from your, what we know about, of course, Brazilian politics and Bolsonaro seems to suggest there's a bit of polarization in Brazil, but it would be good if both of you could, go in there and give me your thoughts, and it doesn't have to be something you're doing specifically, but you both think very interestingly about media, so just go for it. But be incisive but short.
The Bolsonaristas know who we are, use our work, mention us, and respect what we do. And this has been proven again and again. It's not everybody. They don't go there every day. They're not the people who go there to get depressed every day. But for instance, the son of Bolsonaro who lives in the United States, he just said, "Oh yeah," as Agencia Publica said, this guy is my front man. I think I really think we've passed that phase. If you're serious enough, they're going to use it when it's in their interest. And we know this by our republishers base. We have 700 media. Some of the biggest right-wing organizations use our content when it serves them. So I still believe that the journalism can provide the seal of truth, and no matter who is using it.
Yeah, I agree with Natalia. In journalism, after all, it's like we are more left-wing media. We don't hide that, but they use our stuff too. Many times, because we do reporting on everyone. Lula government, Bolsonaro government, we report on everyone. But the one thing I wanted to say is about the disinformation and the polarization thing. And I worked for fact-checking organizations before, and I'd rather sell insurance than work again on that. It's such a hard work. It's very important. It's great work. I'm not dissing their work. It's amazing what they do, but it was so traumatic to me to work on that. This is fake. This is not fake. This is inconclusive. This is whatever. It's so hard, and I wanted to move away from that and to move away to verified verifiable content. So we are very transparent with our methodology, with our data, with the stuff we do. So we're kind of, well, let's push great content and let those brave fact checkers do the dirty work.
Let's make content great again. I think this is a great place for us to stop. And we have 10 minutes for questions. If anyone has any, we're here for it. The person in the front. Just you, yes, you who raised your hand.
Thank you for this. I also run a small.
One moment.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, hi. My name is Lina. I'm from Jordan. I also run a small media organization, online magazine. And we grapple with all of these questions all the time. But I'm curious. I'm a bit torn because you were talking about how you're starting to pay more attention about wanting to reach more people, but at the same time, sometimes it's Sergio was saying that really it's just enough to focus on the people who care, and that's okay, and you don't have to serve everybody. So what we do in this tension is, for years we decided that it's okay to try to reach more people because we invest so much time and effort in the stories. So I know this is very controversial. We actually paid Facebook to promote, stories.
Everybody does this.
And anyway, we started doing that. I think in 2017 or something, like when the first algorithm changes started, and you were no longer getting organic traffic. And then year after year, that money just started kind of growing and becoming part of our budget. And we always said to ourselves, it's okay because this is real traffic, because we monitor average time on page. And as long as average time on page is good, then these are people who are reading, and that makes it money well spent. And my editors were always telling me, it's like, Lina, like, tell us, like, are numbers important? Like, do you want numbers? Do donors want number? Are donors asking about the numbers? And I'm like, well, it's good to be able to show that we are reaching people. So, but then in the past year, the traffic coming from Facebook has changed so much, where average time on page has dropped significantly. And now I'm finding myself in this position where it's like, well, maybe it's okay if we give up that traffic and we just focus on the newsletter and the people who care about this content and the people who will, the policymakers and the academics and the people in civil society who will take that content and do something with it. Sorry, I'm taking too long. But anyway, I really want to hear your thoughts on this with the recent algorithmic changes. I mean, I think the title of the panel had to, sorry.
Thank you so much.
You can answer only if your answer is shorter than her question. So... So you guys can do it, go.
Okay, so everybody did this. We did this too. About 4 years ago, our social media person, it was when we started like really hitting on social media, and then he said, we need to diversify on social media as well, and also focus on newsletters. So don't worry, they tricked us into doing this, and the reason is like the solution is you have to diversify and you have to find direct points of contact that don't depend on big tech. So
Sergio.
Yeah, I agree. We have to diversify, but we got to a point where metrics, vanity metrics like page views and time on page or something like that. Maybe if you have ads, time on page matters more, but we don't. So some vanity metrics got so irrelevant for us that we track it because just out of curiosity, and maybe it will be of use in the future, but we cared about two main metrics: the number of impacts we have and the number of subscribers that are actually paying. Those are the metrics that matter most for us. Like the page views and stuff, those are vanity metrics. They're fine. It's a gauge that just to see if it's working or not, some stuff, but it's not what matters the most.
Can I respond to that? No. It's because I don't think, no, it's because I don't think they're vanity metrics. I think you have to care if what you're writing and the way you're putting it out there, still on SEO, is attracting people. And the reason I'm saying this is because we come from investigative journalism, where journalists just want to do the thing that they want to do, not necessarily what is going to be read or what people need. So, and this is we are very famous journalists, and I think we really have to let that go and look at what people want as well.
Any questions? listen, the point was to have a slightly spiky afternoon session. So any other questions? In the front, both of you, just one after the other, ask your question. Keep it short.
Hi, John Oliveira from the Netherlands, publishing title One World. You were just mentioning about the decline of, just follow up what just been asked. My point is that Google, for instance, well, with the AI tools, make sure that there are answers already being taken. This has a significant effect on the work that we all do. What are your views on that? Thank you.
I'll give one quick view and then I'll pass. But do you want to ask your question as well? You had your hand up. Okay, it's fine. Okay, I mean, I think that just kind of pulling from there, and actually talking to what Lena said as well. One of the things that we've been thinking about is, what if we treat the internet as the kind of open, wider internet, almost like a marketing tool, right? So the idea is, for example, with Facebook, what we've started doing is we've started putting up our stories and just saying, Facebook doesn't want you to see this, subscribe to our newsletter. So we're using Facebook to get people to subscribe to the newsletter and getting them in. Similarly with Google search, search has always been so volatile for us that essentially we think about the moment you get the reader, just get their email. And once you've got that, then there's a way that you can rebuild the relationship. Because I don't think we're going to win a battle with Google for them to change this. So, but go ahead.
No, but we can do the journalism that tries to make them accountable for it, which some of us are. But no, I mean, I think it needs repeating, because that we're at the point of kind of giving up on the system. Yeah.
But that speaks with what Natalia was saying about diversification. If it's dropping too much and it's hurting you, you're too dependent on Google, yeah. Right? So you need to create several forms of distribution, and I think this is not easy. It's one of the biggest questions of journalism right now, in my opinion.
Natalia, you have anything?
No, I agree with my colleagues.
Oh.
And just can I just make one more point, and it's in reference to the earlier question too. I coined this term platform capture, and we had a panel on it just last night at a side event, and that speaks to the ways in which news organisations, large and small, became dependent on platforms for distribution, and it changed practices, including, for example, vertical video units being set up and then disbanded. Right, this is not new. I published as part of that Reuters series on this 2018-2019. You can go back and read it then and think about the fact that we're now in Platform Capture 2.0, where we're dealing with AI. Yeah.
Can I make a comment about that? Very brief. So we have this guy who advises us, and he calls it like a weak link to your audience or a strong link to your audience. All social media links are weak links. They come, they see your thing, they see the next person's thing, and it's good. But it's not what you want. You want people who recognize your brand, who come back, who trust you. And then you have to understand where they are.
Last two questions. If we could have the microphone in the front, please.
Hi, yeah, I remember my question again. Hi, I'm editor-in-chief of an independent platform for journalism in Rotterdam, so it's local. We do a lot of, we are actually an elite niche platform. When we started, we had no idea about audience. We never thought about audience. We just made what we loved and liked. And apparently other people liked it as well, so we kept on doing it. And we are also elite in the fact that in order for a good business model, we have a paywall. We have now 1,800 paying subscribers in the city. We have a bigger newsletter, so we have sort of a loyal reader base. And also, the thing is, you can be fine with this model because the people in the city who are on the important positions, they all read us. The whole city hall, everybody in City Hall reads us. Everybody or all the directors in all the organization on strategic positions read us. So it's very impactful. Yes, sorry. Only my editors, my journalists, they get very sad when I hear about the reading, the data, the page views. Because they took so much effort in making beautiful stories. And I try to make them a positive, like to say, yeah, but the only people who had to read is they read it, but it's not enough. What do I say to them?
So that's a good question. I used to work for Merger Market, which was a mergers and acquisition news organization. It's very boring shit. But once I got a reply, like I got an email from the global editor of this news agency, and she said to me, "Oh, congratulations, you had the highest, the biggest story we published this year, 40 clicks, 40." But it helped two people. That's not the impact I want. I don't like this rich people impact. But it helped two people like do business and merge their companies and education companies in Brazil. So, I mean, if they don't, that's the vanity metrics that I mentioned. You know, like, oh, I put all this effort in this and I got like 1,000 clicks, right? But if you're being read by people who are actually using your information to do stuff, it's relevant nevertheless, right?
Look, we did a little. We have an amazing communications team, and they are super good, and they think a lot about how can we tell our people that we have impact. So they decided they have an internal newsletter which is called "This Week Publica Went Above Itself," like we went really well, and then they put together all the impacts. Actually, none of them are metrics. They're all like, somebody sent this email and it's amazing. We got contacted by these people. We got republished by these people. Natalia spoke somewhere. Other people spoke somewhere. And it's incredible. We started doing this, like, I think 2 years ago, and it is amazing because it shows to people that the value is not necessarily in the clicks, and that's easy to do.
Okay, and I'll just say very quickly, one thing that you could try is just get a really good social media team that produces really interesting stuff for Instagram, which is free. And then you can be like, your story resulted in this video which got 1 million views, and that should hopefully calm them down. And also maybe get them to talk about it on the video, so then they feel like they're talking to a wider audience as well. Because it is true that journalism is sometimes just sustained by conversation.
Yeah, conversation.
We're going to do one last question. You had your hand up in the green.
Yeah, hi everyone. It's not a question. It's a comment and a suggestion for you. Is if you're paying ads, please don't do it. They are killing the business. They are biased. They are now and again showing us clearly that at least in the state, they are supporting Trump. Yeah. Then stop paying. If you're paying him. And the second one that I think perhaps is useful for you, we have a research that is called Conversation with Latinos. It's in English and Spanish. And shows that people do pretty different things when they are scrolling and when they are searching for something that they care about. And then the ones that are following you, probably they care about that. And your reporters need to know that. If you want more people, I don't know if it's Spanish or not just Spanish, also impact ordinary people, not powerful people, try to shout out about that stories that can make sense for other type of people. But that people is not necessarily going to consume the same, because if you are not audience-centered and really, really, really segmented, that is not going to happen. But there are two types of consumption, I think.
Laura is the founder of Chequeado, which is the most amazing fact-checking organization ever.
Say that again now, Natalia. I don't think I ever thought I'd say that.
Laura Sommer is the founder of Chequeado, the first and largest fact-checking organization in Latin America.
Right. That brings us to our time. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you to our panelists. I think all our vanity is preserved by the fact that they all showed up. So
yes, and they stayed
thank
to
you.
the end. Some people were leaving.